The grand halls of Velnara Prime, capital of the Velnaran Empire, sparkled under blue crystal lights. The air was heavy with scent from floating blossoms, and the voices of nobles echoed through the marble corridors. Tall figures with 4 strong arms and long silver robes walked with pride and grace. These were the Velnarans, an old, powerful race that ruled their part of the galaxy for thousands of years, and today they were expecting someone strange. The news had spread across the court. A human was coming, not just visiting, but joining the royal staff. The nobles whispered behind their fans. Some laughed. "A human? In the Queen's court?" one said with amusement. "They can't even lift their own machines without help." Another chuckled. Queen Zira, young and wise beyond her years, sat quietly on her throne of black stone, listening. She did not smile or frown. Her eyes, deep teal like the sea during a storm, remained calm. "Let us see him first," she said simply. The human's name was Dale. He arrived in a small transport ship carrying nothing but a basic bag. When he stepped into the palace, his head only reached the chest of most Velnarans. His arms were thin compared to theirs. His skin looked soft. His dark hair was short, and his clothes were plain. He looked more like a farmer than a warrior. Dale walked with quiet confidence. He didn't look scared or nervous. He bowed when he met Queen Zira, then spoke in clear words. "I thank you for accepting me," he said. "I hope to serve the court with respect and hard work." Some of the guards snorted softly behind their helmets. The Queen nodded politely. "You may begin as a groundskeeper assistant," she said. "Learn the palace, know our customs." Dale only nodded. "Understood." Weeks passed. Dale was quiet, steady, and always on time. He cleaned the gardens, helped repair the walls, and carried heavy tools without asking for help. The head gardener, a grumpy old Velnaran named Brem, started liking him. "Doesn't talk much," Brem told others, "but he works like a storm. Never stops." Still, most of the court ignored him. Some laughed when he walked by, some called him tiny behind his back. One day, while Dale was repairing a cracked tile near the throne hall, a group of young noble guards walked past him. "Careful," said one with a grin. "Don't break a finger, human." Dale looked up, gave a small smile, then returned to work. "He didn't even reply," another said. "Maybe he doesn't speak well." "Or maybe he knows his place," the first guard replied, laughing. Queen Zira noticed these things. She said nothing, but she watched Dale from her throne. She noticed how he studied everything, how he lifted large stone blocks without a machine, how he spoke kindly to every worker but never tried to please the nobles. She began to wonder, why did Earth send him? One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, Zira met privately with her advisor, Malrek, a tall Velnaran with sharp eyes and even sharper words. "Why did you allow the human to stay this long?" Malrek asked. "He is not strong like us. He is not fast. His species is new to space. He should be a visitor, not one of us," Zira replied slowly. "And yet he works harder than many who call themselves royal. I do not care for size. I care for heart." Malrek didn't agree. "Then test him," he said with a smile. "Let him join the trial of strength. Let him lift the throne." Zira paused. The trial of strength was an old tradition. Every decade, royal guards would try to lift the queen's throne, an 800-pound solid obsidian seat, passed down for generations. No one had ever lifted it fully, not even the strongest warriors. Very well, the queen said. Let all members of the court try, including the human. The next morning, the announcement was made. The trial of strength begins tomorrow at sunrise. All who serve the queen may attempt to lift the throne. Whispers filled the halls. The guards sharpened their claws and practiced in secret. And Dale? He kept working, trimming the garden hedges. You're not going to try, are you? Brem asked him. Dale smiled softly. If I'm allowed, I'll try. Brem stared at him. That throne is heavier than a sky car. Dale just nodded. I know. That night, Queen Zira stood alone in the throne room, touching the black stone armrest. Her mind was full of questions. Why had Dale come? What was his purpose? And why, even among giants, did he never look small? She closed her eyes and whispered, Let tomorrow show me the truth. The sun rose over the shining towers of Velnara Prime, spreading golden light across the palace grounds. Servants moved quickly. Guards stood taller than usual. Nobles in colorful robes gathered in the courtyard, talking in low, excited voices. Today was the trial of strength. Every 10 years, Queen Zira held this event to honor tradition. Warriors, guards, and chosen staff members would try to lift the royal throne, an 800-pound block of black stone carved from the heart of a dead volcano. No one had ever lifted it fully. It was meant to remind the people of how strong their ancestors were, even if no one could match them now. This year, something was different. A human was allowed to try. Dale arrived at the courtyard early. He wore a simple shirt and work pants. His boots were old but clean. He stood quietly near the back, not speaking to anyone. Some Velnaran guards looked at him and laughed quietly. Does he think this is a joke? One whispered. He'll break, his arms just touching it, another said. But Dale did not look worried. He stood with his hands behind his back, eyes focused on the throne. The throne sat in the center of the courtyard, placed on a platform of stone. It looked like a small mountain, smooth and dark, with sharp edges and glowing symbols carved deep into its sides. Queen Zira sat on her balcony above the courtyard, dressed in her royal robe of silver and teal. Her crown was simple, but her presence was strong. Beside her stood her advisor Malrek, tall and proud as ever. Do you really expect something from the human? Malrek asked. Zira didn't answer. She just watched. The trial began. One by one, strong Velnaran guards stepped forward. Each tried to lift the throne. Some managed to rock it slightly. Others could lift one corner for a second or two. The crowd cheered politely for each attempt. Then came Corin, the captain of the Queen's Guard. He was massive, even by Velnaran standards. His muscles looked like stone, and his arms were like tree trunks. He bowed to the Queen, then bent down and wrapped all 4 arms around the throne. With a roar, he pulled. The throne shifted. It rose. Just a little. For 3 seconds, the massive stone lifted off the ground, maybe an inch. The crowd gasped and clapped loudly as Corin lowered it back down and stepped away, breathing hard but proud. That was impressive, Malrek said. None will top that. Zira didn't respond. She looked down at the courtyard. The list was almost complete. Only one name remained. Dale of Earth, called the announcer. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder. Some laughed openly. Others looked surprised. He's actually going to try? He must be crazy. Doesn't he know that throne is heavier than a transport engine? Dale stepped forward calmly. He said nothing. He didn't smile. He walked up to the throne and stood in front of it for a moment. His eyes scanned the shape, the weight, the balance. Then he knelt. The crowd fell silent. No one laughed now. Dale took a deep breath, placed his hands under the base of the throne, dug his boots into the stone floor, and pulled. At first, nothing happened. But then slowly, the throne began to rise. 1 inch, 2 inches, 3. The crowd gasped. His arms shook, his back strained, his face turned red. But Dale kept lifting. The throne rose off the ground, fully. For nearly 5 full seconds it hovered in the air, held in the arms of a man everyone thought was weak. Then, gently, Dale lowered it back to the ground. He stood up straight, wiped his forehead, and walked back without a word. Silence. Even the wind stopped. Then a sound, one clap, from Queen Zira. Soon others followed, slow at first, then louder until the whole courtyard was filled with applause. Malrek's face was tight. "Impossible," he whispered. "That throne is not meant to be lifted by humans. It must be a trick." Zira said softly, "No trick, just strength you didn't see." Later that evening, Dale sat quietly in the servants' garden, drinking water. He felt tired but calm. He didn't care about cheers or stares. He had done what he came to do. Suddenly he heard footsteps. It was Queen Zira. She walked without guards. Her silver robe moved gently in the night wind. "You surprised many today," she said. Dale stood and bowed slightly. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," Zira replied. "You reminded us of something important." "What's that?" "That strength isn't only in the arms," she said. "It's in the will, in silence, in patience." Dale didn't answer. He only nodded. "You may have made enemies today," she said. "Pride is a heavy thing." "I didn't come to fight," Dale replied. "Only to serve." Zira looked at him for a moment. "You lifted more than a throne today, Dale. You lifted a wall that stood between us and your kind. I hope we are wise enough to see it." Then she turned and walked away, leaving him alone under the stars. That is dangerous. If others start to believe humans are strong, what do they need Velnarans for? One young guard stepped forward. His name was Farron, tall and proud, with silver armor and sharp green eyes. "Let me face him," Farron said. "A contest, one he cannot win. That will remind the court of who truly protects the queen." Malrek smiled slightly. "Yes, but not a fight. The queen would not allow it. We must choose something noble." "Strength again?" Farron asked. Malrek shook his head. "Not yet. Something more public. Let the people see it. Let him agree to it himself." That afternoon, a formal challenge was issued. Farron requested a contest of skill, a traditional royal event where 2 individuals must complete physical and mental tasks before the court. It was peaceful, respected, and often used to settle honor disputes. Queen Zira was informed. She sat on her throne, thinking quietly. "If Dale refuses, they'll say he is afraid," her attendant whispered. "If he accepts," Zira replied, "they hope he will fail." She nodded. "Send word to Dale. Ask him if he will join." Dale was working in the garden when the message came. He listened carefully, then asked a simple question. What kind of contest? The messenger replied, obstacle course, balance test, strength trial, a mix, traditional rules. Dale looked toward the palace, then back at his tools. I accept, he said. The day of the contest came quickly. The palace courtyard was changed into a large arena. Wooden walls, climbing ropes, balance beams, and large stone weights were placed across the space. The seats around the area were filled with nobles, servants, and guards. Everyone came to watch. Farron stood tall in polished armor. He waved to the crowd. Many cheered. Dale walked in wearing a simple shirt and trousers. No armor, no gloves, just calm eyes and a quiet step. The announcer raised a flag. 3 rounds. The contest of skill begins. Round 1. Speed and balance. The goal was to cross a long beam while dodging swinging poles. Under the beam was soft sand, but a fall would cost points. Farron went first. He moved quickly, jumping and dodging with trained grace. He reached the other side with only one stumble. The crowd clapped. Then came Dale. He walked to the beam, studied the poles, and stepped on. His steps were slower. He didn't jump. He ducked and leaned, moving with strange stillness. He reached the other side without a single hit. Silence at first, then surprise. More claps. Louder now. Round 2. Puzzle of the Stones. 2 puzzles were placed before the challengers. They had to arrange heavy stone blocks to match a design shown to them for 5 seconds. Farron worked fast, his 4 arms moving quickly. But he was too quick. Twice. He had to stop and start over. He finished in 6 minutes. Dale knelt calmly. He didn't rush. He moved the blocks one by one, breathing slowly. He finished in 4 minutes. More surprise. Some nobles leaned forward, whispering, "How is he doing this?" Malrek sat in the shadows, frowning. Round 3. The lift, the final round. Lifting a solid cube of metal and carrying it across the courtyard. It weighed over 500 pounds. Farron went first. He shouted and grabbed the cube with all 4 arms. He lifted it, shaking, and took careful steps. Halfway through, his leg slipped. He caught himself, adjusted, and finished with loud cheers. Then Dale stepped forward. He rolled his shoulders once, took a deep breath, and lifted. The cube rose, slowly but steadily. He walked forward without pause, eyes focused. His steps were even, quiet. He reached the finish and gently set it down. The crowd was stunned. Then, cheers. Loud, full, and true. After the contest, Queen Zira stood from her throne. The contest is complete. Both have shown great strength and skill. But today, one has shown something more. Humility in victory. She turned to Dale. You have faced doubt, mockery, and challenge. Yet you speak with action, not pride. That is rare. Farron bowed. Stiffly, his face tight. Dale bowed low. Thank you, Your Highness. That night Malrek visited the Queen in private. You favor the human too much, he said. I honor the truth, Zira replied. He is dangerous. Zira looked at him calmly. No, Malrek. He is different. And difference is not danger unless you fear change. Far from the palace, Dale sat under a tree, looking up at the stars. He did not smile, but there was peace in his eyes. He had not come to prove anything, but somehow, just by being himself, he had. The skies above Velnara Prime were clear and calm, but inside the palace, something had changed. People no longer laughed when Dale walked by. Some nodded with quiet respect. Others moved aside when he passed. Even a few guards who once mocked him now watched him carefully, unsure how to speak to him. But Dale was the same. He still rose early, worked in the gardens, and fixed broken stones in the palace walls. He never spoke of the throne, the trial, or the contest. He didn't need to. His silence now echoed louder than any words. In the Queen's high chamber, Zira stood at the balcony looking over the royal grounds. The sun painted gold across the trees and towers. Her thoughts were heavy. People speak of him every day, she said. Her chief guard, Corin, stood beside her. Some respect him, others feel challenged. And what do you feel? Zira asked. Corin paused. I saw the throne rise. I cannot deny what I saw, but I do not understand it. Maybe you're not supposed to, she said softly. Maybe we must simply accept it. Behind them, Malrek entered the room, bowing deeply. Your Majesty, he said, a message has arrived from our border post near Goreth's Edge. Zira turned. What is it? Malrek's voice lowered. A threat, a warning. The Threxen have moved their ships. The Threxen were not part of the Galactic Union. They were a cold and ruthless species, known for their strong metal ships and sudden attacks. For years they stayed in their own corner of space. But now, something had changed. Scouts reported strange energy signals. Villages near the outer border went silent. And then, one royal patrol ship went missing. Queen Zira called a high council meeting. All commanders, advisors, and top guards attended. The Threxen are testing us, Zira said. We must respond with strength, but not war. We should move our army to the border, said one general. We should call the Galactic Union, said another. Zira raised her hand. We will do both, but we will also prepare for worst case. Then her eyes moved across the room. Commander Corin, prepare my royal ship. I will visit Goreth's Edge myself. Gasps filled the room. You cannot go, Your Majesty, Malrek shouted. It is not safe. That is why I must go, Zira replied. The people need to see their queen is not afraid. Later that day, Dale was called to the Queen's private garden. She stood by the blue fountain, waiting. You will join me on this mission, she said. Dale looked surprised. I am not a soldier. No, she agreed. You are something else, and I trust you. Dale nodded once. Then I will go. The royal ship, Lightwing, left the palace hangar at sunrise. Its long white wings sparkled as it flew through the clouds, carrying Queen Zira, her guards, and a small team of advisors, including Dale. The journey to Goreth's Edge took 2 days. The deeper they went into outer space, the darker the stars seemed. Signals from nearby planets were quiet. Satellite feeds were weak. It felt wrong. On the second night, while Zira rested in her chamber, Dale walked through the lower deck. He checked the storage, the engine room, and then returned to his quarters. That's when it happened. A bright red light flashed through the hall. Alert! Incoming strike! The ship shook. Guards shouted. Lights flickered. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Zira rushed out of her room. What is it? Threxen ship, a pilot yelled. They fired without warning. A second blast hit the rear engine. The ship dropped fast, caught in the pull of a nearby moon. Control was lost. Brace for crash, someone shouted. The last thing Dale saw was Queen Zira being pulled by the Force toward a collapsing wall. He leapt forward. Darkness. When Dale woke, everything was quiet. Smoke filled the air. The ship had crashed into the rocky ground of the moon. Fires burned at the edge of the broken walls. Metal beams were twisted. The throne room had collapsed, but Dale was alive. He pushed off a panel of broken metal and stood up, bruised but unshaken. Zira, he looked around and saw her. She was trapped. The queen lay under part of her own throne, the same obsidian seat she once ruled from. Now broken, it had fallen on top of her leg, pinning her to the floor. She was awake but in pain. "Dale," she whispered. "I'm here," he said. He ran to her side, checked her wounds. Nothing fatal, but she could not move. "We have to go," he said. "The ship is unstable." "The guards, where are they?" Dale looked around. A few were still moving, injured. Others, not. There was no time. Smoke grew thicker. The floor cracked beneath them. Then he looked at the throne, half broken, still heavy, still massive. He placed his hands under it. Zira's eyes widened. "You can't!" Dale didn't answer. He dug his feet into the metal floor, took a deep breath, and lifted. Pain hit his back. His arms shook, but the throne rose. Just enough for her to pull her leg free. He threw the stone aside with a final shout, grabbed her carefully, and lifted her in both arms. Then he ran, through fire, through falling walls, through dust and heat. He ran until they reached the emergency pod. Hours later, a rescue ship landed on the moon. It found them, alive. Zira, bandaged but smiling. Dale, tired but standing, and the broken throne behind them. The news spread fast. The human had lifted the throne again. But this time, not for pride, for life. For the first time in Velnaran history, a human had saved their queen, not with weapons, not with ships, but with his strength. Carried the queen. Nobles who once laughed at him were now silent. Soldiers who mocked him now saluted. Servants watched him pass with wide eyes, and even children in the city played games pretending to be Dale the Strong. But Dale had not changed. He returned to his small room near the palace garden. He did not speak of what he had done. He helped rebuild the ship bay. He worked side by side with palace workers like before, but he was not like before. Queen Zira called a formal gathering in the Great Hall of Unity. All high nobles, military leaders, advisors, and guards were present. Even citizens were allowed to watch from floating screens around the city. Zira stood in full royal dress. Her left leg was still healing, but her eyes were steady. She raised her hand. "Today we recognize the courage and strength of one who is not Velnaran by birth, but by spirit." All eyes turned to Dale as he stepped forward. He wore simple clothing, but in this moment, he looked like a leader. "He risked his life to protect mine," Zira continued. "And more than that, he showed us the meaning of strength, loyalty, and quiet honor." She turned to Dale and said, "By the will of the crown, I name you Royal Strength-Bearer of Velnara, the first human in our history to hold such a title." The crowd clapped. Some stood. Others only stared. Malrek, the queen's advisor, did not clap. His face was still. Later that evening, Malrek met with a small group of nobles in a private room lit with green fire glass. "This is dangerous," Malrek said. "The queen gives him power. Next, she will give him voice in council." One noble scoffed. "He saved her life. The people love him." "That's the problem," Malrek replied. "They love him too much. If the queen trusts a human more than her own, what message does that send?" "So what do you suggest?" asked another. Malrek's voice turned cold. "We remind her, and him, that respect must be earned again and again." The next morning, a notice was posted in the palace. A royal test of honor. At the request of the High Council, Dale of Earth shall prove his worth in a final challenge. If he succeeds, he keeps his title. If he fails, it is removed. The challenge will take place in the arena of stones, under open sky. Some were confused, some were angry, many were curious, but Dale said only one thing: "I accept." The arena of stones was ancient, a circular space filled with boulders, traps, walls, and weights. It was used for training soldiers and settling noble disputes without war. The ground was hard, the air dry. Queen Zira stood in the royal seat, above the arena. Her eyes showed no emotion, but inside, she was not pleased. She had not ordered this, but she could not stop it without risking unrest. Dale entered the arena quietly. His opponent stepped forward, Farron, the proud guard who had once challenged Dale before. Farron now wore royal battle armor and held a thick stone staff. He bowed, but his eyes were sharp. "I will not go easy this time," he said. "I didn't expect you to," Dale replied calmly. The horn blew. The first test was speed. They had to run across a shifting stone bridge while avoiding swinging hammers. Farron dashed with fast feet and leapt like a cat. He cleared the path in under 1 minute. Dale ran steadily, not fast, but with focus. He dodged each hammer by timing his steps. He cleared the path just seconds slower than Farron. The second test was strength. Each had to carry a heavy slab across the arena and place it on a tower. Farron used all 4 arms and strained. He moved fast but dropped the slab once. Dale used both hands, breathing slowly. His steps were heavy but balanced. He placed the slab without dropping it. The crowd watched silently. The final test was new. A surprise. A large stone block shaped like a throne was placed in the center. The challenge: lift it, carry it up 3 stone steps, and place it on the day platform. Only one could try at a time. Farron went first. He gripped it, roared, and pulled. The throne rose, his muscles shaking. He took 2 steps, then dropped to 1 knee. He tried again. This time he reached the second step, but he fell, breathing hard. He had to stop. The crowd gave soft claps. Then it was Dale's turn. He stood before the throne, took a deep breath, bent low, and lifted. Like before, it rose slowly, but steadily. He climbed 1 step, then 2, then 3, and placed it down. He didn't roar. He didn't look around. He just nodded once and stepped back. The arena was silent for a moment. Then, cheers. Loud and real. Even some nobles who doubted him clapped. Farron stood slowly and looked at Dale. He walked forward, placed his hand on Dale's shoulder and said, "I don't understand how you do it." Dale answered, "I just don't stop trying." That night, Queen Zira met Dale in the garden again. You had nothing to prove, she said. I know, Dale replied, but some needed to see it again. Zira smiled. You carry more than stone. You carry respect. Dale looked at the stars. I'm not special, he said. I'm just The winds over Velnara Prime had changed. The skies were still blue, the towers still shining, but the feeling in the air was no longer calm. Far from the palace, in deep space, the Threxen were moving. Their ships, black and sharp like metal, claws, cut across the stars without sound. They carried weapons made from stolen tech and dark energy. Their leaders did not speak in peace. They only attacked. 3 Velnaran outposts had gone silent in 1 week. The Queen's patrols found only wreckage, burnt ships, broken signals, no survivors. The war had begun. Inside the royal palace, Queen Zira called an emergency meeting around a way. The round table stood her top advisors, generals, and defenders. Malrek was there too, his face as serious as stone. We can no longer wait, Zira said. The Threxen are coming. They want more than land. They want power, fear. General Tarim, a battle-hardened Velnaran with scars across his arms, nodded. Then we must show them we are not afraid. I will lead from the front, Zira declared. We cannot hide behind walls while others fight. The room became silent. Some looked worried, others proud. Then a voice came from the back. I'll go too. It was Dale. He stood with his arms crossed, face calm. He wasn't dressed like a soldier. He had no armor or weapons. But everyone listened. Zira looked at him carefully. This battle will not be like before. This is not a test. It is war. I understand, Dale replied. But I won't stay behind while others risk everything. Malrek stepped forward. He is not a trained warrior, he said coldly. He is strong, yes, but strength is not enough now. Zira looked at Malrek. Sometimes strength is more than weapons, and Dale has proven that. She turned to Dale and nodded. Prepare yourself. We leave at dawn. The next day, 3 warships flew out of Velnaran skies, carrying their finest troops and Queen Zira herself. Dale was on the second ship, standing quietly near the front. Soldiers looked at him with curiosity and respect. He doesn't wear armor, one whispered. He doesn't need it, another replied. The journey took only hours, but every second felt heavy. When the fleet reached the edge of the Zorak belt, they found what they expected and feared. Threxen ships, dozens. They had already taken control of a mining moon and built towers of black metal. Smoke rose from its surface. Their ships circled like hungry birds. This is it, General Tarim said. We attack. No waiting. The order was given. The battle began fast. Velnaran ships fired blue beams of energy. Threxen ships answered with red blasts that tore through the sky. Explosions lit the stars. Dale stood beside a small squad of defenders, watching as dropships lowered toward the moon's surface. His squad was assigned to rescue trapped workers who had sent out a distress call before the base fell silent. As they landed on the moon, dust and heat hit them like a wave. The rescue beacon blinked from a broken tower nearby. We move fast, the squad leader shouted. Stay low! Dale followed, his steps heavy but sure. As they crossed broken metal and fallen stone, a sound stopped them. A deep, clicking growl. From the shadows, Threxen soldiers appeared, tall, armored, with insect-like limbs and burning red eyes. Cover fire! The leader shouted. Lasers flew in all directions. The squad ducked behind broken walls. Dale moved forward, using a fallen metal plate as a shield. He saw one of the Threxen raise a heavy blaster toward the squad. Without thinking, Dale charged. Slammed into the Threxen like a hammer. The enemy flew backward, crashing into a wall and falling still. Another soldier came at Dale with a sharp staff. Dale caught it with both hands, broke it in half, and knocked the attacker down. The Velnarin. Squad stared in disbelief. He's fighting them without a weapon, one whispered. The squad pushed forward and reached the base entrance. Inside were 5 workers, hiding in a small room. They were hurt but alive. "We'll get you out," Dale said. Then the ceiling above them shook. A massive shape dropped from above. It was a Threxen warlord, twice the size of the others, covered in black armor. Its deep voice growled, "You are not one of them. What are you?" Dale stepped forward. "I'm human," he said simply. The warlord laughed. "Weak species." Dale didn't reply. Instead, he picked up a broken steel pipe and swung. The pipe hit the warlord's chest. It stumbled, surprised. The fight began. The warlord struck hard, but Dale moved faster than anyone expected. He dodged, blocked, and struck again. The steel bent in his hands. The ground cracked under their feet. Finally, Dale jumped forward and tackled the creature, using all his weight and force. The warlord fell, and didn't rise again. The squad helped the workers out of the base. Dale carried one who could not walk, and held another with one arm as they escaped the crumbling tower. The rescue ship lifted them just as the moon behind them exploded in a final battle fire. The mission was complete. Back on the ship, Queen Zira greeted them. "Is everyone safe?" "All rescued," the squad leader said. Thanks to him, he pointed to Dale. Zira looked at Dale, who was tired, covered in dust and bruised, but standing tall. "You keep lifting what others cannot," she said softly. Dale smiled a little. "That's what I'm here for." The next day, when they returned to Velnara Prime, crowds gathered outside the palace. They didn't cheer for war. They cheered for hope. And at the front of it all was Dale, the human who didn't shout, didn't demand, didn't wear shining armor, but who always showed up when it mattered most. The sun over Velnara Prime rose with a golden light. The sky, once filled with smoke and fear, was now clear and calm. The war was over. The Threxen were defeated and forced to retreat beyond the star borders. Peace had returned, but something else had changed too, something deeper than just silence after war, respect. Not just for the Velnarans who fought bravely, but for one quiet human who had shown the galaxy what true strength looked like. His name was Dale. The palace halls were filled with visitors from many planets. Leaders from other worlds had come for a special gathering of the Galactic Union. Queen Zira was set to speak. Rumors spread that she would speak not just of victory, but of a new beginning. Dale stood behind the curtains near the royal balcony. He wore a clean black coat, simple but strong-looking. A golden mark shaped like a rising sun was now stitched on his sleeve, the sign of a royal strength-bearer. He didn't like being the center of attention. But today was different. He had earned his place. Trumpets played a soft tune as Queen Zira stepped forward to the wide balcony. Thousands of people stood below, Velnarans, humans, and other species. Soldiers stood in rows. Flags moved in the wind. Zira raised one hand, and the crowd fell silent. "Today, we celebrate more than just the end of war," she said. "We celebrate unity, we celebrate courage, and we honor those who showed us what it truly means to stand tall." She paused, then turned slightly. "Dale, please come forward." Dale stepped out. The crowd gasped at first, then cheered. It wasn't loud like when warriors win a fight. It was warm, honest. Dale stood beside the queen, quiet as always. Zira looked at the crowd. This is Dale, a man from Earth. When others laughed, he stayed silent. When others lifted swords, he lifted something greater. Hope, honor, and those in need. She turned to Dale. "You carried me when giants could not. You stood firm when many fell. For that, Velnara will always honor you." She held out a silver, metal shaped like a throne, light shining on its surface. She placed it over his neck. From the crowd, a chant slowly began. "Human, Human, Human." Later that day after the ceremony, Dale walked through the palace gardens. He liked the quiet. Flowers from different worlds grew there. Glowing leaves, soft petals, rich colors. Zira walked beside him, holding her long robe off the grass. "You don't like crowds, do you?" she asked. Dale smiled. "I like helping, not being watched." Zira laughed softly. "You've helped more than you know. Do you realize that other planets are asking for humans now? To serve, to train, to lead." "Really?" "Yes. You change the way they see your kind." Dale looked thoughtful. "I didn't mean to change anything. I just didn't want to stand by." Zira nodded. "And that's what makes it powerful. You didn't act for fame. You acted because it was right." They stopped at a small stone bench. Zira sat, then looked at him with kind eyes. "I was told to never show weakness, that a queen must always seem strong. But when I saw you lift that throne, I realized something." "What?" "That strength isn't about showing power. It's about using it to lift others. You taught me that." Dale looked down, a bit shy. "Thank you," Zira smiled. "Thank you, human." Across the stars, stories of Dale spread. Children played games pretending to lift great thrones. Artists painted his face. Some called him the stone arm of Earth. Others called him the silent shield. More humans joined the Galactic Union, now welcomed with open arms. They were trained not just for strength, but for purpose. Respect grew. No longer were humans seen as weak or small. They were seen as brave, loyal, and full of something no machine or creature could copy. Heart. Months passed. Dale remained on Velnara, not as a warrior, not as a king, but as a quiet friend to the court. One day, a young Velnaran girl ran up to him in the city market. "Sir, sir," she called, "is it true you lifted the queen's throne?" Dale nodded kindly. "Yes." "Was it really heavy?" He thought for a moment, then said, "It was, but not because of the weight. It was heavy because no one believed I could." She looked confused. "But you did?" "Yes," he said. "That's why we try, even when others laugh." She smiled, then ran back to her mother. In the end, Dale didn't build empires or command fleets. He didn't become king or general, but what he did mattered more. He changed how people thought. He showed them that even the quietest soul, the smallest figure, can hold up the world when it matters. And long after his story ended, statues of strong warriors were still built across the stars. But in the middle of the grand hall on Velnara Prime stood a different statue, a simple man. No sword, no armor, just standing calmly beside a great throne, the moment the galaxy first saw the strength of a human.